everybody. Welcome to the Watch Pals. My name is Chris, and this week we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. But first, I want to introduce the best pals on the block. I'm going to start with Brian, because I see him first. And Brian,
large head.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome for you welcoming me.
Thank you. It's very nice of you.
Welcome to everyone.
Great to see you, as always. Next, we got Jeff. Jeff, great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
And how about last but not least, Jordan. Jordan, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. I'm so happy to see you.
Jordan, are you underwater?
Hi.
Hi, thank you for being here. This week, we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and it's going to be led by our friend Brian, who his pick was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Brian, before I turn it over to you, I want to get everybody's impressions on the movie. Jeff, why don't you go first? And I know we've all seen this movie, correct? We've all seen this movie before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Many a times.
This is like, Brian is going for gold here. He wants to have the best movie of the whole season. He's picking someone's going to pick what's better than Indiana Jones? I don't know. The first three anyway. So, this is like golden standard of adventure films, I think. And that's my impression of it. It's timeless classic.
So how about this? Since we've all seen it before, what did you think maybe the first time you watched this? How old were you? Do you remember possibly? And were you did you understand it? Did you think it was amazing then?
Yeah, so this, I was, prior to us starting this, we were having a little bit of a conversation, and this, I believe Brian said that this is his favorite one. This is not my favorite one. I definitely enjoy it, but I have a hot take here. This was renowned as the worst of the original three, but Temple of Doom is my favorite Indiana Jones. And there's a reason for that. It's because it was the first one I saw as a kid. So a lot of nostalgia connected to it. And there's also I feel like there was always something happening in that one. There was just tons of action, a bunch of really goofy stuff. They're eating monkey brains. They're, getting crushed potentially in a trap door and things like that. And the minecart scene and the heart ripping and, so just, I don't know. That one just had everything to me, and I loved it, and I still love it to this day. That was the first one I saw. After that, I saw, I think, the first one and then the third one. So I saw them completely out of order. But I've liked them all. I think I just, I felt like the other ones were just a little bit slower. And when I was younger, I really liked all the action and the nonstop, stuff going on in Temple of Doom.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that on the Temple of Doom. It was also my favorite. I think it's the one I saw the most growing up. I think we just had that one on cassette for some reason, or not cassette, VHS. Sorry, I always say that. Jordan, what about you? What was your favorite Indiana Jones, and could you remember your first time seeing this one particularly?
I don't remember the first time, but I do remember that whenever I'd go over to my grandparents' house, a lot of times they'd have one of the Indiana Jones movies on, a Star Wars movie on, or the Superman, the Christopher Reeves one. So I remember for some reason, I don't know how often these were on, but I also thought that was kind of cool that at a very young age I had appreciation for Indiana Jones, and this is my favorite one of the three.
Is it because of the Templar and the history of it?
No. I just like the dynamic he has with his father. I like that part of it because the other two, these are always that romantic interest. So I like that. That's kind of missing from this one. It's just different. The second one I liked, but I get it's not my favorite, obviously, because the third one was. But the second one gets a lot of flack because of the well, that's the best way to put this. The way that certain cultures are portrayed, kind of not in the best light. So,
I mean, that's a valid, I think, obviously, that's a valid thing.
They're of a time.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it right, but it's of a time.
But I think surely even after it came out, people were like, yeah, that's not cool, man.
So, Brian, what about you? What's maybe the first time you saw this? This is your favorite Indiana Jones?
Yeah, by far. This is my favorite Indiana Jones film of the whole series. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I saw it in the theater when it came out. I was 6 years old. I can only remember bits and pieces of it from, my memory, of course, seeing the theater. But what I do remember seeing it on the big screen at 6 years old was and we'll talk about it later, is the boat scene when the propeller is chopping the boat away and they're jumping off. I remember seeing that on the screen at 6 years old, just being like blown away, just burned into my memory. So yeah, like this is definitely my favorite of the whole series. They have a whole adventure serial vibe that they're trying to recreate from like the 20s and 30s. But I feel of all the films that they've done with this character, this is the best one as far as like story, character, scope, like writing, all of it. It's great. It's amazing.
So I think for me, again, like I mentioned to Jeff, or mentioned before, I think Temple of Doom is my favorite. I am one person who actually likes Crystal Skull, even though it's seen as like one of the worst ones. I haven't seen Dial Destiny as of this recording. Watching this made me want to go see what was going on with that one, because I don't know if it's good or bad. Haven't heard anything about it. But I will say that growing up, I think I saw this really young, and not in the theater or anything, but like my grandparents, someone had it on VHS and I watched it. And they also had Temple of Doom, which we watched a lot of times. And I fell in love with that, the adventure, kind of treasure hunt adventure type of genre. And so to this day, I mean, that's one of the reasons why Jordan and I have that other show, Mysterious Pals, is we talk a lot about treasure hunts and stuff like that in that show. And it goes back to watching this movie, just like so awesome, so interesting. If I'm going to read a book, it's going to be about something like an adventure treasure hunt type of story like this. I don't know why. This is something that always appealed to me. And again, I did watch Crystal Skull multiple times. For some reason, I like that movie. I don't really love it. It's just a fine adventure movie. It's kind of silly. Maybe I just like Shia LaBeouf. That's probably what it is.
See, but I like Shia LaBeouf too, but I can't watch him swing with CG animals. It didn't look right.
Yeah, he was cool, but that was before he went crazy.
Yeah.
So he was all right then.
He was always a little crazy.
I think he came back around. I think his most recent movie was actually really well regarded.
Well,
Funny enough, though, Brian, I'm glad you picked this movie because I haven't seen the most recent Indiana Jones movie, Dial of Destiny.
Okay.
So Kelly, my partner, and I have been rewatching the Indiana Jones movies, and this was actually the next one we were supposed to watch. So kind of.
Oh, cool.
Out.
Okay,
I was like,
that's cool.
look at that. Convenient.
Perfect timing.
The one thing I do like about the Indiana Jones movies, and I think it's not heard of in movies today, like modern movies, like more recent movies, I should say, is that the fighting is just silly because he's not a fighter. And they really play that up. Like every action movie has to have the best fighter in the world. All of a sudden, every person is the greatest fighter on the planet. And I think that's really what I love about these movies is he is not a fighter. He is not someone that knows how to fight. He just punches people and it works out somehow. I think it's kind of unrealistic, but he just punches people and they just, the Foley work is just breaking a thing of like celery or something to make the sound that's overpowering.
Yeah, I love the way the punching sound effects. Punch sound effects so good. I love it.
Yeah. Very like almost like old Batman, like bam. Yeah. Not quite as ridiculous, but
and it's always louder than everything else too in the entire mix.
The impact of it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like how there's not a lot of that fighting. He's not like a ninja. He's not like kicking in everything crazy. He's just a professor that can punch just like any other,
He's just built
person.
For it.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the recap. Brian, recap. Let's get into this recap here.
Recap, am I right?
Brian, you said you may have a question for us to start out with, though?
So in the theme of the film, we were talking about this a little bit ago. What would be, and this would count as mine, but what would be your favorite adventure film of all time? And that's in just like you could define it any way you want, but like the scope or like the characters getting to crazy situations that it may be like exotic lands they've never been to, just anything like that. So what's your favorite adventure film?
Mine's I think I'm going Goonies.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Just a bunch of kids and their friends discover some pirate treasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it almost hits like
awesome.
Fantasy levels too.
Yeah,
in some movies, not all of them, but yeah.
And you know what? Now that you say, I mean, this is obvious, but you saying that, Jordan, I think might be a reason why I like Temple of Doom the most too out of the Indiana Jones is because, that's the same Data's in Temple of
Oh,
Doom,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like, and it had like that similar. There was a kid, and we were represented in that one at the time. So
True.
That makes sense.
It's really interesting, Jeff, that you say that. I never even thought about it that way. That the
Like a kid sidekick in that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes you more interested in it as a kid. I think Goonies, like Jordan just said, is my favorite movie of all time. Is the best adventure movie. I think it's one of the greatest ever. So that's I have to copy Jordan in that one.
yeah, Goonies is pretty fantastic as far as an adventure goes. But when I think adventure, I think of the old Pork Chop Express. So Big Trouble in Little China is my favorite adventure movie, and also my favorite movie of all time. Just classic John Carpenter, Kurt Russell kicking ass. Also kind of like a similar type of character where he's supposed to be like this badass, right? And he's not really that great at fighting. And that's kind of like funny. He's around all these like martial artists and stuff and still ends up saving the day. So just real goofy movie. I have really fond memories of it. And I'm sure I'll pick that as one of mine on here at some point. But that's it for me.
We'll do a season of our favorite movies.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, why don't you get us started with the recap here?
Let's get recrapping, guys. So just to recap everybody, if you haven't seen an Indiana Jones movie, just to kind of build you into his character, and this movie does a great intro to that character, even if you didn't see the other films. You don't really need to establish because they kind of show how he became who he is. He is a professor at a college in the, I think, 1920s, or is it? Yeah, around 1920. And he is an archaeologist. He likes exploring lands to find treasures that he can bring back for the museum.
I think it's 1930s because of the Nazis.
It starts it's right, 1912 when he's a teenager. So in this film, the other two films, Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom, Raiders of the Lost Ark, he fought the Nazis to get the Ark of the Covenant and won. And then in Temple of Doom, it was a prequel. He went to, I don't even know where he went to, if you guys could fill me in on that, but
Somewhere in India?
yeah, somewhere in India to get the stones, I can't remember the names exactly those stones, but sacred stones that he had to recover. And in this film, of course, in The Last Crusade, he is trying to recover the Holy Grail, which will give you eternal life supreme. So, all right, starting in the film, right in 1912, it starts when he's a teenager, shows you a little bit of his past. He's climbing in the caves with his friend, and they're Boy Scouts on a little trail walk. They break away from the trail walk and they come across a cave with some shady looking characters in there. You don't really know who's in there, but they're looking for the Cross of Coronado, which is a ancient cross that was buried in time. He comes across the cross from these criminals, if you want to just call them that.
And I don't think you know that's Indiana Jones just yet, right? They don't.
No,
say,
I mean,
yeah.
they don't really show it's him, but he's starting to show mannerisms. And
His friends call him Indiana?
That's when they're in the cave.
right when they get into the cave.
Yeah, because you see who you think is going to be Indiana Jones, but it turns out it's not.
Right. They do the rear shot of him with the hat and putting his arms to the side, but then they reveal it's River Phoenix, R.I.P., who was an amazing actor in the 90s. But this is one of his final films, and he portrays Harrison Ford as a kid, and he does an amazing job with his mannerisms. He copies his facial expressions, some of his actions. But he jumps out of there. They start running from this crew that's also been trying to get this cross. They're trying to claim it for fortune and fame from a secret, some buyer that had offered them money for it. And they start to chase Indy and his friend out of the caves into the desert area back to Indy's home. So at this point, they jump onto a circus train, and he's escaping through the circus train to try and get away from these criminals. And one of the big points that shows off his origin story kind of thing, two things. One thing, he gets dropped into the lion den of this circus train, and the lion is approaching him and tries to attack him, right? So he finds a whip on the side to tame the lion, ends up hitting himself in the face to give himself the chin scar that Harrison Ford has in real life. And so I don't know how Harrison Ford actually got that in real life, by the way. I don't know if you guys know that, but they just did that to imitate his character having the same chin scar, though.
Nice little touch.
It was so cool. Like, yeah, you're getting like this is why he's afraid of snakes. Oh, this is why where he got the whip. Thing. Oh, this is where the hat comes in. You know, like it's cool to see how it started.
The snakes was terrible. This terrible scene. That whole thing was like, oh my god. It's
snakes
like
freak you out?
The big snake that comes up and like goes
that one looks fake.
Yeah, but like the whole thing with the giant thing of snakes, like, oh my god, that was horrible.
Well, now you know why he's scarred. His character's scarred that he hates snakes later.
He didn't seem to mind them because they were like in his shirt and stuff. So that's why I was like confused on like why he hated snakes so much. But like he was just kind of like they're still in his shirt and stuff like that.
Well, he wiggled the one out as he because there was one still stuck in there, so he had to wiggle it out.
And another one came out and bit that guy later.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. Hidden snake.
So a lot of different little origin pieces of Indiana Jones during that chase. They get back to the house, starts talking to his father in the next room. You don't know who his father is yet, but you can hear him speaking. And if you haven't seen the movie, I can just tell you right now, it's classic actor Sean Connery, because you can hear his accent speaking to Indiana Jones, his Scottish accent, which is kind of odd. I don't know if they ever explained like the whole I know that Indiana Jones lost his mother at some point. They only referenced they reference it real quick in the film, but they never said like how they met or anything like that. So all you need to know is at this point, Indiana Jones has the Cross of Coronado. The criminal, he thinks he's lost the criminals. His friend from the Boy Scouts shows up and brings the police. The police, the sheriff of the town ends up coming in, takes the cross from Indiana Jones, and gives it to the criminal party, who give it over to this buyer who give him a pile of money, and he takes the cross off. They kind of foreshadow this guy because he has a cane with a limp and he's wearing a white suit, the buyer of the cross. So immediately in the next scene, and before we jump like 20 years into the future of what's about to happen with Indiana Jones, how he became an adventurer and everything, you can see that his father is going over a diary that he's writing in about the Holy Grail and the Crusades and things like that. So before he hands over the cross to the sheriff and the criminals, his father is working on this personal diary about research of the Holy Grail and all the history behind it.
I think he's specifically drawing something that's in the church later in this movie.
Yeah, it might be the drawing of the X, or either the drawing of the Grail itself. I know he was sketching on a little bit. So sheriff leaves, everybody leaves. Indiana Jones pretty upset as a teenager. He just got the cross taken off of him, right? He's been beaten. The lead criminal or adventurer, whatever you want to call him, comes up to him and says, "You lost today, kid. But that doesn't mean you have to like it." And gives him his hat and puts the fedora, or is it a fedora? I don't know. Puts it on him, slams it on him. Cut to 20 years later, it's adult Harrison Ford. He's on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and there's a huge typhoon or whatever's happening.
So real quick before we go any further, I don't want to not mention this because I remember seeing kid Indiana Jones in this, and that was cool. But there was a series that was also based off of him.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and I remember it actually being pretty good. I haven't seen it in a million years, but I'd be curious to see if that cartoon? Like
no, it's live action. It's like live action, and I want to say it's the actor Sean Patrick Flannery from Boondock Saints that played him.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see how it holds up though. Like it might be real cheesy nowadays, but
so is this a TV series?
Yeah, it's a TV series, and they also made a Sega and Super Nintendo game, and they were not any good. So,
all right. Anyway, carry on.
Oh, but also, who actually enjoys losing though? Why would he say that?
Losers.
Kelly pointed that out, and I was just like, "That's kind of dumb." Yeah, you're right.
Depends what you're losing. If I'm losing a sickness here, I'm feeling pretty good.
He's saying it's cool to say "aw shucks" every once in a while.
If I'm losing a bad friend,
I think it was like a way to like give him advice to like kind of not give up, or don't let it get to you too bad because you lost today.
Yeah, say that.
Just say that.
Yeah, just say that.
He's like, you just say, "I could see myself in you," and just puts the hat on.
Whoa.
That was so weird.
Wasn't George Lucas involved in the writing of this?
Yeah, at one point, yeah. So I was actually looking at this up because after the kind of the backlash that the second one got, Spielberg actually didn't even want to do this one.
Okay.
Lucas talked him into it, but I was looking at some of the previous scripts they did, and they were like crazy. One was like Indiana Jones goes to a haunted house and fights a ghost. Another one, he goes to like Africa and fights someone called like, I don't know, this was in Africa. He goes somewhere to fight someone called the Monkey King. I don't know, it was crazy. It's like all these other scripts they did, and finally they settled on this one. They're like, let's do the Nazis again. People were like,
well, they're a surefire thing, right?
Well, that's why they didn't do the Nazis the second time for the second movie, because Spielberg didn't want to rely on the Nazis.
They didn't want to go back
again.
to the well.
Yeah.
But that was 6 years later. I mean, there was 6 years in between these.
I thought it was
5 years.
5, yeah. But it's crazy seeing how many different scripts they went through and ideas they went through before they settled on this one. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, dang.
There's a lot of stuff in these films, like I said earlier, that reference like 20s and 30s, like adventure serials, these old like adventure films that had this kind of theme and like this just like the map, like the giant shot of the map with the line going across it to signify that travel is happening, things like that.
That's great.
Anyway, cut to Indy. He's an adult. We're on the boat. He's with 20 years later with the buyer of the original cross. And they're insinuating Indy's been chasing him to get the cross back because
also pause. The guy's wearing the exact same suit.
Yeah.
just to really seal it home, you know.
I get why they did it. They just wanted the audience to know it was him at a glance.
Well, it was so quick.
This guy
that's why
doesn't change. Yeah. But it's also just funny to think that he's wearing the same fucking suit.
One thing I did like about this movie is like, today they would have just green screened or like did those giant TV screens for all the different scenes. Like the first opening scene, you're going through like, the Grand Canyon or something. And then you go to there's so much traveling involved in the making of this movie. It seemed like at that point in time, especially with the fact that they weren't recording digitally. They were recording with giant on tape, I would imagine still. And they had to transport that stuff across the world in trucks and stuff. Like it's crazy how film, like back then they had to do all this stuff, practical effects and everything.
There's a few, like very few green screen shots in this. I'll bring up one later, but
okay.
And it's jarring to go from like this to Crystal Skull because of that. It's very clear, like they use green screens a lot.
They have to use big TV screens because they're easier than green screens. They're like just giant TV screens that are everything's so high definition.
We'll just walk across these virtual sets now. Yeah,
everything's so high definition now that you can't even tell.
So where were we? So Indiana Jones.
The boat exploding.
The boat, yes. Indiana Jones is an adult now. He recovers the cross of Coronado after a long boat fight with waves crashing. The boat explodes. Indiana Jones jumps off the boat, survives with the cross in hand. And the bad guy is dead because why? The hat floats, of course, in the ocean. So cut to, he's back home. Indy is teaching a class. I can't remember exactly what class it is right now, but is he about to give he's goes over a point later on that X never ever marks the spot in history.
Right.
This is the first time I ever caught that too. I never caught that before.
He says 80% of archaeology happens in a library is what he says.
Yeah, right. Little references to later scenes in this. He meets his friend, Brody, who works at the university with him. He helps him, I think, maintain the museum. He's also like a vice president or something of the university. But they're good friends. He brings back the Cross of Coronado and hands it over to Brody for the museum. Indy goes back to his office where he's being bombarded by students, I believe for a quiz coming up. They're all trying to ask him questions intensely. So he hides away in his office, finds that he has a package mailed to him, little like box or book. It's a book. Sorry, spoiler. It's a book wrapped up in brown paper. He opens it up and finds that it's his father's diary.
He doesn't open it yet.
Well, he doesn't open it yet. That's right. So he escapes out of the window into or out of the back window of his office because the students are bombarding him, and he goes back home. He goes back to his home to find that his home has been tossed apart. It's been just trashed.
No.
That's his dad's.
That's his dad's house.
Yeah.
Those guys interrupt him. The guys take him to talk to the rich guy.
Oh, that's right. So when he
Yeah, he jumps out the window.
Did they arrive immediately yet as he jumps out the window?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so I'm just mixing them up.
And then he meets the rich guy, and then he goes back because his dad's the one missing.
Okay, so the guys grab him, 2 henchmen that you don't know, and he ends up at this.
Him. They don't grab him.
Didn't they say, Dr. Jones, can you come with us? Yeah, but they don't. They cut to immediately. He's just in a different room, so they don't even show that he agreed to go with them.
Yeah.
But anyway, he is in a very fancy office, and he gets introduced to another gentleman named Walter Donovan. And Walter Donovan has been running an expedition to find the Holy Grail, and starts to show Dr. Jones some of his findings that he found in his expedition. So one of them is a marker that will have the location of the Grail, but it's half missing. And that the other location of the marker is buried with a knight's brother.
There's three knights.
Brothers. There's 3 brothers, but the other tablet was buried with each of the brothers, a copy of the tablet. So they're trying to locate where the other brothers are, so they can find a complete tablet to get the location of the apparent Holy Grail, right? So he drops the bomb on Indiana Jones that their interpreter or their expert has disappeared on the project, and that the expert was Indiana Jones's father,
Which he should have just led with to begin with.
Yeah, right.
Like,
He was really just holding back for
yeah.
suspense.
By the way,
Yeah, tell me right off the bat that my dad's missing.
yeah.
And I'll just agree to do whatever.
He's trying to get him involved.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, if he's not into it at first, maybe I'll just bring up the dad thing.
Because he really pushes the fact, and I think it's always a fairy tale, something they heard through all the growing up about this story of the 3 brothers and the knights, and it's all, he's like, it's well known that it's like not real, and that's what he keeps on saying, like it's just fairy tale, it's folklore. And
Right.
then he's like, no, but your dad was the one. We figured it out, and your dad was the one.
But he's disappeared.
Yeah.
So Indy and Brody go back to their father, or Indy's father's house, to find that his father's house was tossed, and that Indy finally realizes that his father, he opens the package that was sent to him, that his father sent him the Holy Grail diary that he was making for years. So Indiana Jones tells Brody that he is going to take part in the expedition to find his father and figure out what the hell's going on. And Brody says, I'll go along with you. So they begin the expedition to Venice.
Oh, wait, really quick. At the airport, what's his name? Donovan tells Indy
Walter Donovan,
tells Indy not to trust anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, don't trust anyone.
Foreshadowing there.
Which is major foreshadowing. So finally, they arrive in Venice. They meet the assistant to her father, Dr. Ilse Schneider, who is a German expert in religious findings, I guess you could say.
Unfortunately, her name in real life is Alison Doody.
That's right. That's correct.
I was like,
I don't know what other film she's been in, really. I haven't seen her in a lot of stuff.
She was in one of the James Bond movies, like in the 80s.
Okay.
Oh, was it one with Sean Connery?
No. I think Timothy Dalton was.
Oh, she was in Major League 2.
She was in Major League 2? Oh, wait
Yeah.
a minute. Was she Charlie Sheen's wife? Holy crap. I think you're right. I think that's it.
Was that her?
Well, yeah, he had in the second one. So we're getting off base here, but
Yeah, man.
all right, in Major League 2, Charlie Sheen had what some people would call a trophy wife, because she was like a blonde executive, and I think it was Alison Doody, but he also had the other love interest, which was the leather jacket wearing actress from Dazed and Confused, but I can't remember her name right now. It was the older sister of the younger. I'm just going off on a tangent now, but anyway. Long story short, they're in Venice. Alison Doody's an actress, and you should respect her, everybody. All right.
It's Elsa Schneider. ELSA.
Elsa, Dr. Elsa Schneider. Okay, there we go.
Whoa, she was in that movie RRR too. What the heck?
Was she in that, really?
Yeah.
We were just talking about that.
Anyway.
So meets with the doctor. They decide to go to the last place that his father was researching for the location of the tablet. Okay. And they come upon this library. So they walk into the library and they're looking for some kind of markers. They open the Holy Grail diary, and there's markers indicating that there's some type of like, I think it's a 5 and a 7, but there's an X or a 10, right? So he can't find the 10. That he can find the pillars with the 5 and the 7, but he can't find the 10 located in the library.
I think this is such a stupid scene.
Why? Is it over explaining it?
Because the way they figure it out, you're just like, oh, it's down here. Like, it's so dumb.
I don't want you to think too hard. I mean, it's not like you're playing Myst here.
I mean, come on. If they're all like standing there like, we can't find the X. Like, it took them way too long to find the X that's on the floor below them.
I mean...
Yeah, but all the other ones were small on the wall, Chris.
And
All
also,
right.
and also he said X doesn't always mark the spot, so he wouldn't be thinking of that.
He's fooling
also,
himself.
they point out in the beginning when they're walking in that this is just not a library. It was originally a church, I believe, like an old church.
That's right. It converted from a church into a library. That's correct. So he goes up to a second floor, finds the X on the floor, and says X marks the spot. Is a giant X in the middle of the floor. He has to dig through to get to the catacombs where the tablet's being held. And not to take too much time, but there's a funny joke here where he starts slamming through the floor with a library, like a little
stamper.
Divider stand or stamper. Yeah. Well, the librarian is holding a stamper, checking in books, and Indy Jones is striking the ground in time with the stamper, making the librarian think he's losing his mind or having a stroke. Apparently,
he's like, man. He keeps looking. It was
looking down at his
funny.
stamper. It's making these loud slams. Yeah, it's like an anvil sounding stamper.
That's kind of stuff they put in these movies. They put this kind of stuff in there. I think all of them have these weird little scenes that are just funny in their own way. And they're kind of just hidden in their different spots. It's just like, it has nothing to do with the plot, but it's just like a really silly little thing.
It's just good humor.
Yeah.
Not other than the ice cream. But no, it's good. It is just good writing other than like, okay, we have to get to point A and point B, but what do we do to get there? Anyway, so they start digging in the floor. They're digging through the catacombs, and Indiana notices there is a crap load of rats below them as they're digging through. They don't seem to bother Indiana Jones too much. Like, he doesn't like them, but it's not like the snakes where he gets freaked out. However, the doctor, Elsa, that is with him is not happy about the rats whatsoever, especially as they get closer to the, where they find the coffin of the second or third brother, in the knight's tomb, and they find a copy of the tablet. So Indiana Jones starts making a scrabbling of the tablet with a little bit of chalk and a little piece of paper. And as he's doing that, some shady characters.
They mention that when they get it, the first thing they say is like, "Oh, what's that smell?" And he's like, "It's petroleum."
Oh yeah, they're foreshadowing again.
Yeah, and it's like his petroleum is, and it's weird because it's in the water, so it would float on top of the water. But then, and that's at this point, like as Brian was about to say, is these guys come in, they light the entire thing on fire. They light the water on fire, which caused the petroleum that's floating on top of the water to ignite.
Right,
but as they're going through this catacomb, he gets an arm and a piece of fabric cloth, and then dips it in the water and
dips
then
in the water and lights it.
But like
that wouldn't be a danger.
He would have caught a fire.
and you see fire. You see flames dripping off it though.
Right, like why wouldn't it set off like the rest of it? Right.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't make sense.
But anyway.
Also, Brody was knocked out upstairs by some gentlemen.
was.
And dragged away.
Okay, I miss it.
Yeah.
They never bring it up again.
And his legs were crossed when he got dragged away.
And they seem to not care when they leave that he's not with them.
Yeah, well, they're thinking about their stuff at that point, but
yeah.
When they get back with him though later, he's just like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" Like they don't ever.
Maybe that was an extended thing they cut out or something, but
yeah, they pulled his pants down too.
They did a lot of things.
Yeah.
So they light the entire sewer on fire to shield themselves. Indy and Dr. Elsa flip the coffin and make an upside down boat under the water to shield the flames. But in doing so, there's some holes in the coffin and the rats begin to get in because they're freaked out by fire. Who wouldn't be, right? They start to bite the doctor in the head, looks like in her hair.
Yeah, nasty.
She's very upset by that. But finally, they get up to a sewer grate, and that begins the great boat chase scene coming up. So they get onto some speedboats in the harbor to run away from these. I forget what's the name of these guys. So
You find out later.
Yeah, he reveals after the
yeah.
fight, but so they're chasing them through the water. A lot of action hijinks are happening, jumping between boats. One of the highlights is that they're trying to go between two giant tugboats, and the doctor is driving the boat. So Indiana Jones yells to her from the back as he's fighting a guy, "Don't go through those boats," or something like that. And she said she heard him say, "Go through the boats." So anyway, they start going straight through the boats, barely make it through. The second boat with a bunch of bad guys follows through, immediately explodes.
Yeah,
like
as
horribly violent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was a
That's what
crazy
happens.
explosion.
Right. So the lead bad guy gets onto the boat with Indy and the doctor, and they're fighting. The boat is beginning to be chopped away, and Indy is holding the guy's head to it, and he's like, "Tell me where my father is." And he's like, "If you let me go, I will tell you." He seems convinced enough that he pulls him off the side. Well, the criminal tells him, "If you don't let me go, we're going to both die because we're going to be chopped to bits by this giant boat engine." So they had jump off to the side. He reveals who he is. He is an ancient order that is known to protect the location of the Holy Grail. They follow this because they don't want the Holy Grail to fall into the wrong hands, any kind of evil hands, right? But in turn, by letting him go, he says Indiana Jones tells him he doesn't want the Grail. He just wants to find where his father is. So he reveals that his father is being held in a castle. I'm going to say this wrong. Broomhelm, maybe? I said that right?
It's in Austria.
It's in Austria. Yeah, right. So he says he's being held captive there by the Nazis. And yeah.
Well, I think he just says it's being held there. I don't think he says the Nazis because when they get there, he's like, "Oh, I hate the Nazis."
Yeah.
They don't mention Nazis till he gets there.
Wait a minute. So, okay. Yeah, he's being held captive in Austria, and he can't put two and two together.
Well, at this point, that's like, what, 39? You know, it's like one of those things where like they're trying to spring like, oh, it's the Nazis again. I think is what they're trying to do, like
Okay.
set it up as a reveal.
So, it's one of my favorite scenes. Are we at the castle? So,
Yes.
okay. They arrive in a rainy day at Castle Broomhelm to save Dr. Jones, Indiana Jones's father. Indiana Jones disguises himself as some kind of art dealer, Scottish art dealer, when he takes the beret from Dr. Elsa, and he says the rain is beginning to cause him a sniffle. I'll see if I can imitate this. "It's beginning to cause me a sniffle." And he's like, he's like, "Tell the owner of the castle, I forget who it is, that the great doctor, whatever, and his assistant are here to look at the tapestries." The butler is confused as he's saying, "You weren't invited," or he says, "Does this place not have tapestries?" The butler says, "This place has many tapestries, but if you're a Scottish lord, then I am Mickey Mouse." Indiana Jones punches him immediately, and they begin to locate his father. They come across a room upstairs that is hardwired above the door, so they don't want to open that to set off the alarm because that's where he's being held in there, right? So they go into the room next door. Indiana Jones goes up onto a window, takes his whip out, swings across immediately to the other room where his father's being held, breaks into the window. Before Indiana Jones could even compose himself, has a vase smashed over his head. You don't know who smashed over his head. You think it could be a bad guy. Turns out it's his father, Dr. Jones.
Because right before this, though, they see that the Nazis are in the basement.
Did they peek into the basement?
Yes.
Okay.
They're like, oh, it's the Nazis. I hate the Nazis, is what he says. And then that's when they find, he's like, oh, everything's going to be trapped. That's why he looks for the wires in the door.
The wire in the door. So
Didn't before this he sent Brody off to Alexandretta
that's correct. So he
with the map?
thank you for that.
There was
Thank
a
you,
scene
gentlemen.
of them in the hotel getting dried off and stuff.
Right. So that was post when they found out where his father was before they left for Austria. He sent Brody over toward Alexandretta on that part of the trip while he went to find his father. So they split in the road at that point.
Some romance ensues between Elsa and Indy.
Yeah, they start smooching in her hotel room.
Smooching.
Both of the hotel rooms were destroyed, though.
Yes, they were also tossed.
Couple of
looking
smoothies.
for the diary.
Making smoothies.
Making some tongue smoothies.
Jeez.
What? So, anyway.
Back to his dad.
Back to it. Okay, so Dr. Indiana Jones has been hit over the head with a vase by his own father, Junior. They begin to speak. They begin to have a little conversation. He said, "I'm here to rescue you." He's like, "Sorry about your head, though. I thought you were one of them." He says that, no, I came to rescue you, Dad. Let's get up and get your stuff and get out of here.
I like this because it shows kind of their personality, because his dad seems more concerned over the vase he broke rather than if Indiana Jones is okay.
That's a great point. He is more concerned about the Ming vase dynasty vase because he's an archaeologist than his own son's well-being. and you can see that throughout the film too. They also reference that, but they begin to try to escape. Some Nazi soldiers break into the room. They say, "Give us the diary. It's in your pocket." And his father's like, "You idiot, you dolt. He doesn't have it. Why do you think I sent it away?" He goes, "You didn't bring it, did you? You did." So before his father starts to scold him about bringing the diary in his pocket back to Austria, to the Nazis, to where he tried to get it away from them, because he doesn't want to discover where the location of the Grail is. But before his father can finish scolding him, Indiana Jones says, "I told you," takes the MP40 and hits the Nazi and takes the MP40 out of his hand and blasts the other Nazis and says, "Don't call me Junior." So
his dad's unimpressed. He's just like, by any of this. He's just like upset.
His dad was like, "I can't believe what you've done."
Yeah. He's shocked. His dad doesn't know he's become this great adventurer throughout the years. He just kind of like, as you said, Jordan, he kind of like ignored him throughout the years in his teenage, because he's been focused on his work and finding the Holy Grail. So anyway, they get out of there. They run into I want to say a lieutenant or whatever his rank is, Nazi general, holding Dr. Elsa with a gun against her neck and saying, "Give us the diary, she dies." As he's doing this, his father is saying, "Don't trust her. She's one of them." And Indiana Jones is so confused in this moment, because you have the Nazi soldier yelling at him, like pointing a gun at her neck, just digging it in, as his father's being cocky, just saying, "Yeah, go ahead, shoot her." It's it's pretty funny when you watch it a couple times, but
she's like, nonchalantly, he's like, "Yeah, she's a Nazi. Like,
she's
don't trust her." Yeah.
But I think the other cool thing is this where she references that they they hooked up too?
No,
the dad?
I don't think just yet.
No, this is after that scene.
Yeah, which is, geez.
So he hands over the gun, and basically the Nazi soldier lets her go. She reveals that she was on their side the entire time. She takes the diary out of his pocket and starts walking backwards. All right. Cut to Indiana Jones and his father are tied up, and they're captured by the Nazis at this point, and they say to him, "I've already mailed a copy of this to Brody," and he sticks out like a sore thumb.
He ripped pages out of the diary.
Oh, that's right. He ripped specific pages that would reveal the map to the location. So Brody has those on him. He makes a huge exposition about Brody being this secret agent that will blend in, disappear, never see again. He was
speak multiple languages.
Dozen languages. Cut to Brody in Alexandretta saying, "Does anybody know how to speak English around here?" Just confused. He runs to an old friend from Temple of Doom and Raiders of Lost Ark, Sala, who has always been a friend of Indy's. So Sala is going to help him in this expedition to find before Indy meets up with them later to find the Holy Grail, at least get them started. So before they can do that, they run into two more secret Nazi soldiers. Well, they're not really hiding it that well. They're wearing like black trench coats and black sunglasses. I mean, like in the middle of the desert, that kind of looks a little shady, don't you think? But basically, the Sala tries to help him escape by punching the guy through a newspaper in the face. They fail because Brody runs into the back of a truck, which turns out to be a Nazi desert truck. I forget what they called like that division over there, but yeah. So anyway, Brody is in the bad guy's hands at this point.
I wasn't sure if that were like actually like if that was actually intended, because it looked like it was a supply truck with a Nazi logo on it, but it was like had like fruit. It was like a fruit truck or some kind of food supply line truck.
Oh, so if I'm remembering correctly, it's was it a palm tree?
Yeah. But like it just had those Nazi logo on there.
Right, but I'm pretty sure like in like the desert warfare back in World War II, they used that logo.
Okay. Was that an intended thing where they tried to get him to go in there, or was that just like it's just a happenstance? Like Mr. Magoo his way into it, Mr. Bean his way into it.
It's kind of an odd scene because like he's trying to escape, and they made the back of the truck look like a storefront.
Yeah, and Sala told him to run in there too. He's like, get in there.
Right, but Sala was always and that's and seeing this as a kid and now like it's kind of confusing because it's like number one, like you said, how did they set up that storefront that he could just like, how did it look so legitimate he could run into it?
I think that happened, the same thing happened the first one. That's a callback to that. And this time I think this time it didn't work out. Because Sala did the same thing.
Okay, so I see. He tried to escape through a house front, but then this one, it turned out to be just a Nazi truck. So there you go. So yeah, they have him in their hands now. Cut back to Indy and his father. They're in captured Nazi hands at this point, tied up against a chair in a dining room. And Donovan, the Nazi general, and Dr. Elsa are pretty much just...
It's revealed that Donovan is behind all this, though. That's right, too,
That's right. So Donovan shows up. He turns around in a chair. He's been working with the Nazis all along. They're going to give him some kind of hookup to give him the access to the Holy Grail.
He's an American working with the Nazis, which is like a no-no at this point. Like, they're like, why would you betray your country for the Nazis? And he's like, I just want the Holy Grail to live for it. Like, he just wants the Holy Grail.
Right. He doesn't care about them. He says these people come and go throughout history, but the Holy Grail's forever.
And he tells Indy, he's like, I told you not to trust anyone. And you're like, oh, he's talking about
gotcha.
Got him.
Call back.
Then he hit him with some DX chops and spit water in his face.
He spit directly in his mouth.
Yeah. Did you guys ever see National Treasure, the first one?
It's been a long time.
Minute, yeah.
It's like this relationship between these two is like the Donovan and Indy is like in National Treasure, the two main guys in there. They hate they're like friends working together. He's the finding of the treasure, and then he like kind of turncoats.
Was that Sean Bean?
Yes, Sean Bean. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, same kind of situation. Like it's like, I guess it's like a treasure hunting trope, like type of thing, adventure trope.
The old backstab.
Yeah.
We'll have to put that on the list. That's been a minute.
So Donovan, the Nazi general, and Elsa are all taunting Indy and his father at this point. They're tied up in a chair. They're like, nah, we're going to go get the Holy Grail. You can't do a thing about it. And as Donovan is leaving, he tells the Nazi general that, in so many words, Germany's declared wars on the Jones boys, which means eliminate the American conspirators. So basically kill them.
Wait, you skipped over. This is where we find out that both
bang
father
both
and
of them.
son, yeah.
Oh, you want to... Okay,
boots.
that joke. So, yeah, he goes, how did you know... So, Indiana Jones asks his father, how did you know she was a Nazi? And she talks in her sleep.
Yeah.
And there's a small pause there as he looks at him, and he goes, I didn't trust her, why'd you? And then, yeah. But, all right, so at this point, Donovan leaves en route to Alexandretta, and they're going to try to kill Indiana Jones and his father. To get out of there, Indy Jones pulls out a Lucky Charm, which is his lighter in his back pocket. His father's digging for it for him. Ends up getting the lighter started to burn the ropes, but dropping it near his foot, starts to kick it, and ends up, after a few blows from his mouth, setting the room on fire around them. To which Indiana Jones, again, is preoccupied with something, I mean, like trying to get out, I guess, that he's not noticing these hot flames arising from behind him. But they shimmy their way into a fireplace, which is a secret fireplace. They're just trying to get shelter at this point. Their foot hits a mechanism that turns them around to a secret Nazi communications room. It looks like a map room of some kind. And they do a few spins, a little bit of a comedy here. The lady gets very upset. They smile at her and she yells alarm. They finally break free and spin around back into the map room and trap the Nazi soldiers into the room with flames with it looks like some kind of like statue of, I think it's like Sigmund Freud or something, but
It's
whoever
Hitler.
it was. Oh, was it Hitler?
Yeah.
It was a ball Hitler on that statue. Didn't
I
look
think
like
it's Hitler.
It was Hitler.
Okay. Maybe I didn't see his like crop top, but anyway, they start to run through to escape the castle. His father follows and goes into another boat chase. You think they're about to hop in the boat. He sets a boat off and just leaves it empty, going down the river so the Nazis will be fooled to chase it. As the Nazis go to approach the boat and chase it, Indy Jones and his father burst out of was it a crate?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
real quick, I don't know if Indiana Jones saw something on the crate that said this is a motorcycle. But how would he know
He
there's
had
a
to.
but wait a minute.
How did he get in there?
How did he get in there and seal it in this time?
Unless it was behind it.
Because, yeah.
This is like David Copperfield. Like, how did he do that?
Well, there's even more of a David Copperfield coming up on this chase scene here.
Yeah, so they start to do the motorcycle chase. So they're in a motorcycle with his father's in a little sidecar, and the motorcycle Nazis start to chase him with their goggles. A few cool little like flippy dippies here. The most important one, I should say, what I mean by flippy dippies are literally people flipping around in the air. But there is one moment here in this whole motorcycle sequence where there's like almost like a joust type moment where Indiana Jones grabs a flagpole and goes after another guy and jousts him, takes him down, uses the broken joust pole to jam it into the other wheel, which sends the other man aflight.
Yeah, there's like an explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 20, 30 feet in the air.
And I also like that, like, Indy's all happy, looks at his dad for, like, reassurance, and his dad
Yeah,
just,
his dad's pissed
nothing.
off.
Gives him nothing.
Well, no, like, yeah, it's not only nothing, but his dad's upset by it. Like, he's saving his father's life.
That's why I like this, because, like, you never see the side of Indiana Jones in the other movies. Like, this vulnerability. Well, not just vulnerability, but like, look for approval.
There's little pieces of him, yeah, for sure.
It humanizes him a little more, right? Instead of the superhero guy.
You learn more about himself as the character rather than like this indestructible like action star, right? Like he at the end of the day
Looking for his father's approval.
Yeah.
Right. Especially since he was a kid because he's never gotten it really, right? So they dodge the Nazi soldiers. They come to a crossroads. It's one direction leads to, I guess toward Alexandretta, and the other to Berlin. His father wants to go back towards Berlin to like the den of the lion, as they say, during World War II. And Indiana Jones is like, why are we going to do that? And he says, well, we need to get my diary back. There's important information in there. There's clues in there we're going to need to get through the final steps to find this grail, right?
Because Indy wants to go to Alexandretta to get Brody.
Get Brody and get the hell out of there. Yeah.
Because the last like 3 steps in it are the last 3 steps to get into the thing.
Once you get into the cave, I'll call it the Cave
There's
of
3
Wonders.
tests.
Yeah.
Yes, to prove you are the penitent man.
So they have to figure that out, and that's in the diary. And if the Nazis have that, they can get in. So they have to get that back.
They're heading to Berlin. There's a giant Nazi jam happening, book burning. They're just having a blast. They're just
Nazi
burning.
jam.
Yeah.
It's a terrible way of saying it.
Nazi jam.
Nazi jam.
Just monster trucks and shit.
I
Yeah.
just picture like skateboarding.
You'll pay for the whole seat, but you only need the edge.
Book burning all day.
Kids getting free.
Monster trucks.
Kids get it free.
Kids get it free. Sign up to the Hitler Youth.
Oh,
My
man.
God. Cut all that out, please. So
No.
Sunday.
So they arrive at a book burning by the Nazi party, and Indiana Jones disguises himself as a Nazi soldier. So he starts walking through, and he comes upon. Wait, is this before or after he runs into the book? Where he finds the Dr. Elsa.
He gets Dr. Elsa.
Because she signs the diary.
Yeah,
he signs the diary.
Yeah, threatens the killer, but gets a diary off of her.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so he runs into Dr. Elsa because she has the diary in her pocket. She threatens to scream because he's got her in a chokehold. They're just pretty much having a little like
Well, yeah, he said all I gotta do is squeeze, and she goes, all I gotta do is scream, and then neither of them do anything, and then he.
It's also interesting that while this is going on, the book burning before Indy shows up, like she has like a tears in her eye, like she's upset because they're destroying culture and history.
She has a mutual respect for being a doctorate in this type stuff.
You know, she's a nice Nazi, you know?
Right. Well, she's kind of pulling the same she's kind of pulling the same move that Dunham's pulling. It's like she has other intentions for it. She's just using them to like get ahead, I guess you could say. But she's still guilty of being a Nazi, pardon my language. But so anyway. So he gets a copy.
She's still at Nazi Fest.
She's still at Nazi Jam 2K12.
Yeah,
so
2K12.
So he gets the book off of her, ends up somehow running into Hitler. Just bumps into Hitler.
As a kid, I was like, "What? They got Hitler? How'd they get Hitler in this? He should be dead." I was excited. I was like, as a kid, I didn't understand. As a kid, I didn't understand, like, how, wait, what? How is this possible?
Why can't I meet Hitler?
That was not why.
They're playing that really, like, happy, evil music. Like, it's all happy.
So,
real quick, though, speaking of the music in this film, it's just fantastic.
John Williams,
all of them. Yeah, they're all great.
Amazing. So, as Hitler was walking through the crowd, kids are asking him to sign, like, their personal books or whatever. Indiana Jones bumps into him with the diary. Hitler, he first doesn't know what to do. Hitler interprets this. He looks down and sees the book, opens it up, and signs it for Indiana Jones and hands it back to him. Indiana Jones
kind of smiles.
Kind of relieved that this happened and walks away with a autographed copy of the diary signed by Hitler. All right, so... Well, yeah, and by the way, whoever they got to play that actor that played Hitler, they got a good look-alike, whoever that was, for the original guy. All right, so at this point...
the original guy.
the OG.
The original guy who played Hitler.
You know, that guy.
Yeah, the original actor of Hitler.
So, at this point, Indy and his father are getting onto a Zeppelin to head toward... I guess they're just heading toward Alexandria from the Zeppelin. I think that was their intention. Or if they were supposed to get like a connecting point.
They're trying to get out of Berlin.
Out of Germany. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're on the Zeppelin having a little discussion between themselves. A little more back history between father and son. Like, we haven't been like this. Do you remember the last time we sat quietly like this together? I think I had a milkshake and you were just sitting there. His father, of course, isn't even barely listening to him at this point. His father just doesn't have the emotional connection with him that he wants, right? And they keep pushing at this throughout the movie. Like, they keep poking at it.
He goes, "You want to talk? All right, let's talk."
What do you want to talk about?
And he has nothing. Yeah, he has nothing to say.
He just stares him down. And he goes, "I have nothing to talk about." Now, what are you complaining about? So they start talking about what Chris said earlier, some of the tests that they have to do to get to the final location of the Grail. During this time, how did this happen? Somehow the Nazis got wind of them being on the Zeppelin.
So before they had that conversation, they noticed that the one general guy got onto the Zeppelin.
That's right. So they noticed that the general has been chasing them throughout the movie since Austria. Yeah.
Also, when they were trying to find a flight out of Berlin. Yeah. They were at the airport or whatever. There's Nazis that are handing out pictures with wanted signs. They're looking
for them at every location.
Yeah, and they were handing out. So they just jumped on the first thing.
Somehow snuck on.
So the Nazis were looking for them at the airport.
Right. So
yeah, and Indiana knocked out one and pretended to be like the guy like checking tickets on the Zeppelin.
He didn't have a ticket.
Yeah, he starts checking the tickets of the passengers. He comes across the Nazi general and says, "Ticket, please." The guy turns around, knocks him out. Punches him, not only punches him, takes him and throws him out the fucking window into a bunch of luggage.
Yeah.
The guy's lucky he didn't break his neck, which I'm sure wasn't his intention, but
then, yeah, everyone looks at him and he delivers the line. Go ahead.
Yeah, all the passengers are shocked by this. He looks around and says, "No ticket." And they, in turn, start feverishly reaching for their tickets to show him so they don't get punched and thrown out the window. So at this point, the Zeppelin takes off, and you can see the Nazi general shaking his fist in the air from the luggage at it.
Yeah, the green screen scene.
That's a green screen scene. Thank you. That's one of them.
Yeah.
So
Also, we got a Wilhelm scream.
Wait, was that when he fell out?
I don't know if it's when he fell out, but I wrote it right after No Tickets, so it's coming up. This is a Wilhelm scream approved movie.
So at this point, the Zeppelin is starting to travel out of the country. They're having the discussion about the book and everything, just sitting there. Indiana Jones notices that the Zeppelin is starting to turn around to go back to Germany. Someone must have got over on the radio or something to the pilot to turn back around, right? Indiana Jones and his father go to the bottom of the Zeppelin, and they discover a little biplane that's on the bottom of the Zeppelin. I think it was a common thing for Zeppelins to have that, right?
It's like an escape plane.
Yeah, it's like an escape pod, escape plane, yeah. So they launch off the Zeppelin on the plane. It's another really awesome action sequence. He tells his father to jump in the back gunner seat because there are some Nazi warplanes chasing them, right? So he tells his father, Nasser, there's a plane, 10 o'clock. His father pulls out his stopwatch and asks him, what happens at 10 o'clock? To which he points to the air, 12, 11, 10, signaling his father what a clock is in the sky. So his father begins to shoot at the warplanes. He's not a very good shot. He ends up shooting the tail of the plane during this, taking completely out. Indiana Jones notices the plane starting to tug and not control, looks back at his father and says, son, I'm sorry, they got us. Just bailing out that he fucked it up as well. So
we've been hit. Yeah.
No one in this movie, no Nazi in this movie can actually shoot Indiana Jones. Like, it's crazy.
Well, that's like a big thing in all the Indiana Jones movies, right? Like,
and I think all like 80s movies. I mean, Star Wars is the same way.
Wars,
like,
yeah, I mean, come on.
But like, it's crazy how many times they're just like, hey, we're gonna shoot. It's not gonna hit them at all.
It's that plot armor, baby.
well, they gotta have some kind of fodder for the main character just to like plow through, right? So, at this point, Indy tries to land. He lands the plane barely in a sheep farm, almost hitting a bunch of sheep or whatever those were. And two Nazi planes are chasing him. At this point, Indy gets on foot and steals a car from the sheep herder that he was just replacing a hubcap on, I think, right?
yeah.
And he's just an old man, too. So he's like, I think Leanne was watching with me at the time. One of these times, the guy's in shock. She felt so bad. She's like, what's going to happen to that guy? That was a nice car. I'm like, he's going to be fine. It's fine. Head away from the plane. They're running away from the plane in the car. They come across a tunnel that they zoom into, to which the plane, I don't know for what reason, decided to chase them directly into the tunnel.
Yeah, well, I probably just couldn't see the tunnel, I think.
Well, he couldn't slam on the brakes in an airplane, if that's what you're thinking.
He couldn't pull up.
Why didn't he hit the brakes?
Slams both wings at the beginning of the tunnel, turns into like a flaming, I don't even know what the hell you'd call it. He just sitting in the middle of the cockpit. Yeah, flaming projectile. Goes past them in the car, looking at them in shock as he goes past.
That's a good scene right there. They're just like, what?
Yeah.
To which he completely explodes at the end of the tunnel, and the Jones guys drive right through it and scratch free. So they took care of one plane. There's one plane to go. They're on the beach. This is probably one of my favorite scenes for how dumb this is.
Yeah.
Because I have to imitate it when it happens. Indy looks at his gun in his pocket, but sees he has no ammo in it. So there's nothing. That the plane is beginning to dive bomb them, doing gun runs, basically taking shots at them as they run across this beach. His father sees something, and you can see in his eyes, gets an idea, right?
Well, wait. First, did you mention that why they got out of the car?
Oh no! What? Oh wait, that's right. I forgot.
So dumb. It's like this most.
Wait, didn't he drop a bomb on them?
Yeah, and then they just drove right into it. It was like crash.
Yeah, so as they
into the hole,
good
the bomb
point.
made,
So as they exit the tunnel, the existing plane drops a bomb and it drops a hole and they wreck the car. So they have to jump out, right?
You're like thinking they're fine. They're like they're gonna be fine. It's gonna be a longer drive scene. And all of a sudden, just like boom, right into the hole. Like the way that it was shot and the way that the whole action took place, you could tell it was a fake car and like it was
They just like shoved it in.
Yeah, they just like shoved it in and it's like stopped.
Well, so at this point they're getting dive bombed. The father gets an idea. He hands his case to Indy and takes the umbrella off, goes to the seagulls on the beach and begins to flap his umbrella, making this sound, chirp, 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 to which all the birds in turn take off in flight together. And engulf the dive bombing plane. And I know you said the Wilhelm scream on that before.
I might have been here.
Well, that guy, I don't know if it's the Wilhelm or whatever, but this guy screams pretty well as he's getting plowed by seagulls flying into his cockpit. He explodes into a mountain. And that's it. They pretty much take care of the two Nazi planes that way. And they start to make their way to Alexandretta from that point, right?
Because I think that his dad says something like, well, what are you going to do, Junior? Like, they make a reference like, well, what are you going to do about it? And his dad's like, I don't know, Dad. What are you going to do? Like, he's like trying to like, almost like he gets out of like, finally like annoyed at his dad's like, just being like, okay, what are we going to do next? Well, come on, think of something. And that's whenever he's like, I'll take care of it.
Well, he references like he sees himself where he gets it from in that scene because he says, I remember my Charlemagne, which is like his like some kind of college like poem or whatever, like is declaration, excuse me. But it's like, let my allies be the rocks and the trees and the birds in the sky. So it just occurred to him at that moment that he could use the birds in that moment. So
yeah,
Indy, they cue the music. Indy gets that indication. That's where he gets it from. And they start to make their way to Alexandretta, right? So they arrive with Sala, who tells them they have Brody and they also have the map because they have Brody, right? They start to go down the trail, the Canyon of the Crescent Moon, if I'm remembering that right.
Yes.
So the Nazis have an entire war party with them. They have tanks, they have horses, a couple trucks with them, and just a bunch of soldiers everywhere. And basically, they're holding Brody in one of the tanks at this point, I think, right?
And his dad.
Yeah.
Well, what, did they have his father at this point? No.
Not yet. No.
No, because they get his father in the middle of the entanglement.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, sorry.
So
I'm getting confused.
No, it's okay. I know there's so much
There's
going
so
on in
many
these
scenes in this movie.
Yeah,
like,
that's why I'm trying to like put it all together because I know these scenes.
Well paced and everything though too.
And it flows so well, like it just like goes by so quickly. But yeah, Indy and his father start to go after Dr. Brody, or it's Dr. Brody. Dr. Brody in the Nazi tank and the Nazi convoy. Huge action scene. Indy gets on a horse. I don't even know how to. There's so many parts to this. There's like,
yeah, just you gotta watch it. There's no point in trying to explain everything that happens. Yeah, there's
a fight on top of the tank with like 5 soldiers. Indy's father gets captured at some point during the rescue in the big tank, right? With Brody.
Yeah, he finds Brody at first, and they do that like weird handshake, ear
master
pull
of
thing,
the
and then like
resuscitation or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he says.
Because there's one group shows up again to try to stop them, and that's what then start the whole fight.
The secret order that's trying to prevent them from getting the Grail.
Right. So they're the ones that show up and start causing everything to go down.
But originally the Nazis think it's Indiana Jones,
right? Because they shot a tank shot at him.
Right. So in this whole like in fodder going on, Indy eventually gets to the tank and gets to where his father is and Brody is.
There's a really great line when Indiana Jones's dad gets caught and like the Nazis slapping him with the glove, and he's like asking about the book and stuff. I forget exactly what led to it, but he was like, goose-stepping morons like yourself should read books instead of burn them. And I was like, oh, that's such a good... He got him.
Goose-stepping morons like yourself should be reading books instead of burning them. Yeah, amazing. So, Indy and the Nazi general are fighting in the tank. It's starting to head toward a cliff edge. And at this point, I believe Brody and... Dr. Jones, the father, are off the tank at this point because Sala has come up with a horse and Indy has like got them off to the side. So he's still fighting the Nazi general in the tank. It's about to go off the cliff and you just see the tank go off the side. And this is the other green screen shot in the film because there's a shot of the Nazi general in the hatch of the tank, all bloody, screaming into a POV shot of the camera before he hits the rocks, and that's totally green screens because it's just like this weird, like horror shot out of nowhere. But the tank falls and gets crunched. It doesn't explode, or does it eventually explode? I think it just falls and just like crunches out.
Forever.
Yeah, you just see it like fall upside. Actually, we rewound this a few times. If you watch it,
you can see his body the dummy body just like stuck to it.
You can
Yeah.
You can see his body flopping around. So it's worth rewinding a few times if you're into that sort of thing.
Into watching guys get crushed, yeah.
If you're into watching like pain and So the rest of the party, Dr. Jones, Brody, and Sala think Indy may have died because he was fighting the Nazi on the tank and they fell off, and Indy's hat blows by. So they're all standing over the cliff, just kind of crying and just being emotional. Indy shows up behind them at some point, all kind of messed up and out of breath. And
his face is awesome right there.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
just like, he just had a rough day. And he's like puzzled by what they're looking at. And he looks over the cliff with them and kind of like nods like, oh yeah, we got him. Yeah. And then his father looks back at him and hugs him and says, I thought I lost you, boy. And so they hug and embrace. And I think Sala does like a kneeling down kind of like pose, looking up at him with that he's relieved that he's alive. And they begin to head toward the Canyon of the Crescent Moon, where the Holy Grail resides. So at this point, the Nazi party is already there, and they begin to send poor like mercenaries they've hired into the entrance of this cave where the Holy Grail resides. Because of this, because they have no idea what they're doing, the first person, one of the soldiers, because at this point they've sent several people in there. This soldier,
You see like a guy with like a severed head on the ground. He's like looking at him like, oh no.
yeah, this guy's just sweating hard, whoever this poor guy is. But
Yeah.
you see these cobwebs start to rise up, and he's breathing harder, and all of a sudden he's toast. It took his head off. So Indy, his father, Brody, and Sala arrive. All right, I think does Sala hang back? Because I don't remember seeing him in the cave.
No, he's there.
Is he there? Or just oh, it's right, because he's hanging
Yeah,
with
because
the
they're
father.
looking.
That's
and
right.
Then they come up on him from behind.
Yeah, and then they make them do it. Yeah.
It's kind of like in Temple of Doom. They do that too, when they're looking at the heart ripping scene, and they're like,
Oh, right.
the other guys come up behind them.
So the Nazis eventually find them, and Donovan, he goes, you can't force me to do anything. And he says, you know what, Dr. Jones, you're right. And he shoots his father in the stomach. And so Donovan gives Indiana Jones an ultimatum that says, whether you want to do this or not, you have to use the Grail to save your father. It's up to you. It's now a question of what you believe in. So his father is lying on the ground, bleeding out through the stomach. Sala and Brody are trying to comfort him, holding kind of pressure on the stomach wound as much as they can, while Indy goes in to retrieve the Holy Grail, or at least begin to, right?
It's a question I have about this whole thing.
Yeah.
What's the Holy Grail supposed to do?
So,
Eternal life.
yeah. But it's kind of like iffy about
That's
it, right?
what I mean.
We can
'Cause,
talk about that when we get to the old knight in the last room.
Okay,
But
because the whole thing's confusing.
yeah, it's kind of confusing about what the rules are of the Holy Grail, for eternal life. But so Indy is using the diary to figure out 3 steps, essentially 3 rooms, to get into the room of the Holy Grail. The trials, correct. The first trial is the breath of God. And that is only the penitent man will pass.
Yeah.
To which they keep whispering. It's one of my favorite parts. His father, as he's lying there, is whispering, penitent.
And they keep getting closer and closer to his mouth each shot, as you see.
Yeah, they keep zooming in. The penitent, and so Indiana Jones is trying to like work out that clue. He's like, what does the penitent man do? The penitent man is humble. So the penitent man kneels before God. Right before the blade comes out to chop Indy's head, he yells, kneel! And he does this forward roll, a barrel roll.
he doesn't, like, that's what I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Because he finally has the realization, I need to kneel here.
Yeah,
and
but if he kneels, then his legs would have got cut off, or he would have got caught by the
yeah, on the first one, but then he's like aware that a blade's coming out, and then he sees the other one does that roll.
But yeah, but that doesn't make sense with the whole trial. A penitent man doesn't kneel and then roll forward.
Correct. He would.
I'm going to do that next time I go to a church. I'm going to be like, I'm going to When my nephew gets baptized, I'm going to do that on the altar and see
Maybe
what happens.
we've lost history, like through the annals of time. We've lost what kneeling really is.
Yeah,
and
that's what we're missing.
we're kneeling. We got to roll, guys.
Yeah, you got to kneel
Chris
and
is
roll.
just like I'm a penitent man. That's what.
Yeah.
You can live forever if you kneel and
And that's
roll.
when you ascend.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the path to enlightenment is kneeling.
You guys know that Donovan guys is the Maester from Game of Thrones.
No.
What?
He's like the
Oh,
old
you
guy
know
with the
what?
beard.
Yeah, I can
That's
see
him,
that
yeah.
now. Yeah. But he's one of those actors that, like, here's the thing. This movie came out in 1989.
Yeah.
That guy was kind of older when this came out. So it's like, holy shit. How are you feeling, man? But I'm glad he was in Game of Thrones. So he passes the first test. He does the kneel. He does the roll. He gets to the next test, which is the Word of God. And that's the true name of God, which in this film is Jehovah. But his father points out, but in the Latin alphabet, Jehovah begins with an I. So this is the part that I laugh at the most in this film when he puts his foot. So basically Indy has to, there's a floor full of letters and that Indy has to spell out Jehovah to step across correctly, right? But Indy, yeah, he is so cocky in that first letter. It's like so fast, but he goes, but in the Latin alphabet, Jehovah begins with I. So you see Indy's foot reach for it. He goes, J, and he immediately falls over or falls into a pit and almost dies because he picked J instead of I. So comes the realization, right, that begins with an I, starts jumping across the letters.
Just like the Goonies scene when on the piano.
Playing the notes, right?
Yeah. Fall through the floor.
So he almost falls one more time just because he has terrible jumping skills, apparently, or like sidestepping skills. All right, crosses to the next room, which is is it the
leap of faith kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it is a leap of faith. But basically, it's a giant chasm in front of him that he cannot cross. I mean, like from his perspective, he can't cross it. There's no way to cross it, and it says in the book, you have to take a leap of faith from the lion's mouth, from under the lion's mouth to survive. So he looks up and there's a little figurehead of a lion there, but he looks across this chasm and it's like completely impossible to cross, right? So he takes a moment to himself, grabs his chest, takes a deep breath, puts his foot out, lets himself fall, as his father in the other scene says, you must believe. Turns out the whole bridge was an optical illusion, right? So the camera cuts to the side, pans across. You can see it's almost like a magic eye situation where the bridge blended in with the rock completely, right? So
yeah, it's the perspective.
Correct. So it's all about, and again, that's all about what perspective you have in of like religion and life and all that stuff. So he goes through to the next room, finds finally the chamber of what could be the Holy Grail. And as he's been going along to these tests, he's been clearing way for the Nazis and Donovan to get through. So Donovan and Dr. Elsa are following him in tow, trying to get to this room, and they also follow him. But before they get there, he runs into a room that has a bunch of grails, okay? In this room, there's also a knight kneeling there, reading the Bible, I assume. or maybe, I think it was the story of the brothers, maybe. So it turns out this knight who tries to attack Indiana Jones and fails miserably immediately because he's so old.
Yeah.
I believe is he the third brother?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the third brother from the original tale, who's been living in the canyon of the Crescent Moon the entire time, living eternally protecting the Grail, right? Until someone could take over his role, but to protect the Grail.
He'd be so bored.
He just reads all day. He just likes reading.
The same book.
Yeah, where do you go to the bathroom?
Just in the corner.
that whole
Thousands of
leap
years.
of faith thing.
Yeah, over the chasm.
Right.
That's what it's filling up with. Eventually, you just fall off it. You'll be fine. So, he thinks Indiana Jones is there to replace him. He says he's strangely dressed for a night, grabbing his hat and whip. He goes, listen, I don't have time to explain, but before he can get the words out, Donovan and Elsa show up in the room. The old knight is just looking old and confused the entire time.
Oh, that's right, because they stopped he stopped the.
He grabbed
the saws.
There was a crank that was running the saws. He grabbed the rope that would stop that. He put stones over I assume they knew what word to step on if they knew what word. Like he didn't mark that for them though, did he?
No.
So someone would have had to tell them.
Maybe
before
they
went to
watched
that room.
him. Or watching him from behind or something. I don't know.
It's like, ooh, they're like, but. And then finally in the last room, he threw stones out so they could see the optical illusion across the bridge. So at this point, there's a bunch of different grails in this room. And the knight tells them they have to choose, but choose wisely. Otherwise, I forget what he says exactly. They'll suffer.
Basically, one gives you eternal life, and one takes your life away. Basically.
Right. The rest would take your life away. So Donovan says, I don't know which one to choose. There's so many. So the doctor says, let me choose, and chooses him, Dr. Elsa, and picks for him a diamond or ruby encrusted chalice, right?
Gold, yeah.
Gold.
Like
it has a bunch. It's just decked out, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Donovan assumes that this truly is the cup of kings,
King of Kings.
Yeah, he picks the one that's green.
yeah, right. So,
but Elsa, it's also something I never.
Do you think she has a hidden agenda here? Like, do you think?
Yes, because when she gives it to him, as he's about to drink, she has kind of this maniacal look on her face. I think she did it on purpose.
Like backed up a little bit, like took a few steps back.
Yeah.
So he dips it into a little pool of water, takes a sip, closes his eyes, wait for it to take effect. Opens his eyes and realizes he made a horrible mistake because he starts to choke.
Idiot.
You stupid idiot. You choke. So he begins to choke and say, what is happening to me? And in a accelerated claymation fashion, this is one of the best. Did this freak you out? Like as a kid, did this freak you out, this part?
Yes, 100%.
I like the face melt in the first one better, but this one's still really good.
Yeah, he goes from current life status to complete rotting skeleton within 5 to 10 seconds. Down from each layer of skin to I don't know, gore, then bone, and finally he just
basically ages instantly.
Yeah, he ages to skeleton form and then blasts against the wall.
He does blast against the wall.
A final fuck you blast to Donovan.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have sipped that.
I think it's because Indy pushed him off of Elsa.
Oh, is that why? Because he grabs Elsa as he's melting away, and she's screaming, freaking out. Indy pushes him. Must have been a hard push because he goes against the wall, breaks apart.
He blasts against the wall, yeah.
And finally, Indy has to now find the Grail to save his father, but he has to choose between these Grails. So he's like, oh man, which one do I choose? He's like, finally he spots a cup that is very basic. Half of it's scratched away. It looks like kind of like a monk's chalice, I would say, maybe like a church or something. But he said that has to be the cup of a carpenter. Yeah, cup of a carpenter. So Indy, now this goes into your thing, Chris. We can kind of talk about what are the rules of the Holy Grail, because Indy here takes a sip and is fine to test it, right? To test that it is the Holy Grail. He doesn't melt away. So, but because Indy drank the Holy Grail, how does he live for another 20 years, or how does this work?
Yeah, that's what I was trying. Is he? Because then he's older in the other movies.
Oh, did you guys not listen?
Well, yeah, no, about the seal, I get that. You
that's just with the cup.
No, the knight even told him you can't leave this room once you do.
No, with the cup.
No. Before that.
No.
Well, no, it's not the room, it's the cave. There's at the very entrance, there's a seal
that's
on the ground.
That's with the cup,
right?
But it's saying the effects will go away if you leave that room. That's why the knight. That's why the knight stayed there the whole time.
I see, and he said that is the.
But he was aging too, though.
That's the price.
The price of immortality. That's right. The price of immortality.
But he was aging too.
He was, but that's what I don't understand. That's what I don't get. Did he just start drinking it when he was already old?
Immortality doesn't necessarily mean you don't age, right?
That's true.
Hold on. The knight at some point was man, poorly. I am getting sick of this. I'm not drinking this anymore. And he started walking out, and he's like, no, who's going to do this?
Yeah, he starts getting super old, like, he backs up a little bit.
Yeah. So, anyway, Indy gets the Holy Grail. They run back to the front. He feeds his father some of the water from the Holy Grail.
Yeah, but then why does it heal him?
Because, well, that's what I don't see. I thought it's the seal. It's not the room. Because
that's what the cup. I think that's what Jordan meant, or they said.
Well, he's already healed, though, right?
No,
you can't.
No. So his father is at the start of the cave, laying there with the bull in his belly, right? But he's not beyond the seal, which is the entrance of the cave,
right?
So,
but he's out of that room,
which means the immortality's gone.
Right. So I think it's the cave. You cannot leave the cave with the cup. Because he sips from it and he pours it on his belly, which melts the bullet away, essentially, the wound.
It heals him instantly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the point is that you cannot leave the cave with the Holy Grail because you can't live forever unless you stay there with the Holy Grail, right?
Yeah.
And if you leave with the Holy Grail, you're going to find out the consequences. And Dr. Elsa finds out the consequences because as everybody's really happy that his father is healed, she grabs the Grail while everybody was looking the other side and says, "I've got it. Come on," to Indy. "It's ours, yours and mine." He's like, "Elsa, don't go past the seal, honey. That's what the knight said."
Whoa. When did Jesse Ventura get here?
No, that's what he said. "Elsa, give me your hand, honey. I can't hold you."
The body.
So as she passes the seal with her feet and holding the Grail, backing up, starts to earthquake and the whole entire cave starts to fall apart, right? So the entire cave starts to crumble. At some point, the Grail falls onto a shifting cliff, and it's sitting on a cliffside. Elsa tries to reach for it while she's falling off another part of the floor. And as she's doing that and reaching for it, as I said before, and he's like, "Elsa, just grab my hand, honey," because he can't hold on to the grip. She falls to her death, screaming.
Yep.
And that happens there. So Indy then goes for the Grail himself.
Well, no, he slipped while trying to help her, and then his dad grabs
Right, well,
his
he
hand.
sees that he can go for the Grail, though. Or that he has the opportunity, but he can barely reach it. So
basically the exact same thing that just happened with
but now with his father and Indy, right? So his father, in a serious moment, says, "Indiana, let it go." And he realizes that it's just a pipe dream. They've came here what they needed to do. Their adventure's complete, so they can leave this place finally. He grabs the Dr. Jones, helps his son up out of the cliffside. They escape as the cliff's falling apart. As they're leaving, they see the old knight waving to them goodbye.
Yeah.
He seems pretty thrilled that this is finally over. So
I can die now.
I can die now peacefully. This is great. Thanks. So they all leave, start to get on their horses. Brody, Sala, Dr. Jones, and Indiana Jones. It's revealed that Indiana Jones' real name is Junior. He's Henry Jones Jr., and that Indiana was the name of the dog.
Yep.
That he took. He goes, "I had a lot of fond memories of that dog."
They show it in the very beginning of the movie when he runs into the house. The dog.
Oh, like on his name tag?
No, they just show the dog.
Oh, they show the dog, but they don't have it. He doesn't have a name tag or anything. Yeah, they ride off into the sunset. Brody I should say this before you. Brody says he knows the way and leads the way.
Oh man!
And this guy barely falls off the horse and gets dragged along. that
dude, he tears.
Well, yeah, he almost got bucked off of it. Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
but they made him look like he knew what he was actually doing too. Though he flew out of there, so it was like this juxtaposition of him being like this bumbling kind of guy the whole time to whoa, he's like an equestrian. He's just tearing off with this. But yeah, he does look like he goes so fast that he almost. Well, no,
I think he goes so fast that he loses control. And that they say the joke immediately after. Didn't he get lost once in his own museum?
Well, I thought that was to be how is he handling this horse so fast?
Oh, I took that completely different. Maybe you're right. I don't know. But
what else? Write it in the comments. What did you guys
think? Did you like it or dislike it? Subscribe.
Did you think it was him tearing and showing off, or did you think it was him?
Do you think he tore on the horse when he left?
Yeah.
Do you think the horse tore it?
Comment, like, subscribe.
Yeah.
That's the movie. They ride off into the sunset. His father and son are in a better relationship now because they've completed their lifelong journey. He's helped his father complete his goal in life.
And he actually says, "Take us away, Junior," and Harrison Ford or
Yes, sir.
Fine. Yeah, he says he's fine with it now, which is interesting.
They've made amends. They've been disconnected through the years, but through this adventure, they're finally again father and son. And that ends our film. And I talked way too long. I'm sorry.
Did they mention why they call him, like, why the original writers wanted to name him Indiana? It's just because it sounded cool?
I think a lot of those serials back then had those kind of like crazy names for like the adventurers.
Okay.
I don't know, like like something stupid like Jack Adventure. You know, like it just like they
Jack
had that
Adventure.
kind of
Jack Adventure.
Tune in for Jack Adventure next week.
All right. Well, thank you, Brian, for recapping the movie Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. Now I want to go through and find out what you guys thought of the movie. And Brian, let's start with you. I want to hear what you thought about the movie.
It's one of those movies that over the years I could watch again and again and I never get sick of. It's just like it's almost, I don't know if it's the perfect popcorn movie because I have a definition in my head of what like a action or adventure popcorn movie should be. Like what is like the best experience in the movies for that. This is up there. Like this movie, like Jurassic Park, Terminator 2, like these are these blockbusters that not only are amazing to look at for like visually or whatever, but they have a great story and great characters that it just everything comes together. It's just an amazing movie.
Thank you. And Jordan, what did you think of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
Well, I said earlier, it's my favorite one. I like the dynamic and the relationship between India and his father. I think it's really interesting. I like getting more of a backstory of Indiana Jones and why he is the way he is because of that relationship with his father. But also little small stuff like why he's afraid of snakes, how he got the scar, the hat, where to get his name from. But mostly because of the relationship between the father and the son here, which is different from the other movies. Interesting enough, though, they're only 12 years apart in this movie in real life, which I thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, like the whole adventure of it. Yes, there is a night thing, the Holy Grail thing, which I like that stuff. But I don't know, the adventure of it. I think it is. I wouldn't say it's a popcorn movie. Like I think it gets a lot of bad connotation. It might have like bad connotation to it, but I think it's a great adventure movie. I'll say that.
I think the other thing this movie does is like point out like why Indiana does all this stuff. He's trying to impress his dad through like his entire career,
right?
And you're like
live
kind
up
of
to his archaeological standpoint. Yeah.
Also, I had heard this thing once where this kind of left a bad taste in my mouth with the first one, that Indiana Jones was totally inconsequential to in the first movie. Did you guys ever hear about this? That whole theory.
What's going on?
No.
You guys never heard this? So there's this theory. They're like, he didn't matter in that movie whatsoever. The result of the ending of the movie would have happened no matter what if he was in that or not.
The Nazis have still got the Ark and still opened it and still died.
Still died, yeah. And
I
I heard that and I was like,
Yeah, but it's like a butterfly effect though. It's like a little pebble in the ripple. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but we wouldn't have seen it,
Right.
Yeah, if Harrison Ford didn't do all that, we wouldn't have seen it.
So why would you say that?
so
Why'd you say that about Harrison Ford? Why you say that? Why you say it about Harrison?
His character.
All right, Jeff, what do you think about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
It stinks. No,
It's the critic.
it's a great movie. You like it? Yeah, John Lovitz, everybody. No, I mean, yeah, pretty much exactly what everyone else said. It's a timeless classic. It's not my favorite, but that doesn't mean I don't really like it. It's a great adventure movie. The trilogy, the first three are like untouchable as far as like a trilogy adventure movie goes, I feel like. Just all around good. Again, really liked like the relationship between him and his dad and the origin stuff. So that was really cool. And the last part with like where he was figuring out the puzzles and walking through it was like super cool. So
Yeah, I agree with Jeff. It is not my favorite Indiana Jones, but I still love it as Indiana Jones in general. The entire series I enjoy. I haven't seen the last one, like I said, but I'm sure I'll like it because Crystal Skull. Again, I also enjoyed watching Crystal Skull, but I know it's not looked on as a good one. But I do like the adventure movie thing, and that's what done really well in this movie. It is, like I mentioned before, it is really, there's so much jammed into this 2 hours. And yet they pace it so well, and it makes sense. Like you could really mess that up and made the whole movie. There's jamming so much in there that like you could have really screwed up the story.
I'll back you up a little on Crystal Skull because it is a terrible movie, but the first half I thought was really good. Like it's like, oh, it's classic Indiana Jones, it's back, and then they started like going off the rails with it. But I'll give you that half of it was pretty good.
Yeah, I don't expect anybody to like it. I don't think anybody should like it. But but like I said, I just like adventure movies in general, especially treasure hunts and stuff. And while there wasn't I don't think this movie did a good job in the wrapping it up. Like I said, the whole thing at the end was kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say silly, but it was kind of like convenient, I guess. But I understand it. It was an adventure movie. They have to make it interesting and suspenseful. But they did the whole globe-trotting nature of it, the way they were going to these different places, and again having all these different stories going on at the same time, where you have like these different factions. Because we didn't even mention the fact like how'd they get that tank? How the Nazis get the tank? It's because they asked the king in that region that they were going to if they could have the tank and his soldiers and stuff, right? Trading.
Oh yeah, we skipped that part. Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Not really that important to the story, but like the way that they kind of brought in like little things like that of like, well, where'd they get a tank or where'd they get all these soldiers? Was because they had that little scene of them giving the guy a car, the king, and there's like really good job of taking all this stuff and jamming it into a 2-hour movie, which was edited really well, flowed really well. Like I said, the ending was a little confusing as far as how it all put together, but but they also had that subplot of him and his dad's relationship, and then different plots of like the Nazis and what's going on with them, and then the Brody and how he gets lost. Like it's so many different things that are throwing into this movie that could be so confusing if it wasn't edited so well.
You could have screwed it up really bad.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. All right. Let's go around and give you thumbs up, thumbs down from each of you. So let's start with you, Brian. Thumbs up, thumbs down on Indiana Jones.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up all around. It's an amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it twice.
3 thumbs up. All right. Jordan, what do you got? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs way up. Thumbs way up.
Thumbs up. Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, thumbs up. If you haven't seen this for some reason, what are you
You're
doing?
an idiot.
You must be a small little kid or something.
It was on TBS every day.
But yeah, also, if you haven't seen this or any of them, don't start with this one. Watch the first 2. But it's a great movie. Thumbs up.
I agree with all of you. Thumbs up. Great movie. Will watch it again. Would love to watch it again. Watch it probably once a year just for fun because I enjoy it so much, as well as the other movies. Just for some fun. Can't wait till I can show my kids the Indiana Jones series when they get old enough that I don't feel like the melting faces would traumatize them. But it didn't traumatize us, I guess, so we're good.
Yeah, we turned out fine.
Yeah. All right, and next week we have Jordan's back up. Jordan, what are you choosing next week for the movie?
We will be watching the 2000 movie, The Cell.
Ooh.
And just to point out, when you mentioned this earlier, I never looked it up. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what this movie's about or is, so I'm interested to see. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah,
What?
A lot of people haven't.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I saw this in the theater when it came out, and I haven't watched it since.
Yeah.
So.
I saw it, same. And I think it won a bunch of awards for like visual effects and stuff.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. So it's going to be fun. I am interested, but I know nothing about it, and I'm going in completely blind, so I look forward to it. So next week we'll be watching The Cell. Who's in that again?
You got Jennifer Lopez, Vince Vaughn, and Vincent D'Onofrio.
2000 Jennifer Lopez too.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yep.
And they
Thank
take
you.
advantage
I'm
of
looking forward
that.
to that one. Yeah. All right.
They take advantage of that.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we will be back next week with another episode. If you would like to help us out, give us a follow or rate us on any podcast platform of choice. Leave us comments if you can. And if you have questions, please email them in so we can read them. Maybe we'll read them on air. I don't know. Comments, we also accept criticism if you have things we do wrong or we're
Gear that all towards Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chris.
We also accept we accept money. If you want to send that to us too.
Someday we may set up
Money.
that type of stuff. If you just want to send us in an envelope some cash, cold hard cash, put in an envelope, drop it in.
Hide it behind the mailbox, please. Thank you.
But the link to all of our social media stuff is in the show notes below, and you can find us on any podcast platform, which you already have because you're here. You can also go to watchpals.show for a link to our website that has links to all of our social media and all of the other news and upcoming information, previous episodes, it's all there. Until next time, thank you, Jeff.
Hey.
Thank you, Brian.
Hey.
Thank you, Jordan.
Oh.
And we will see everybody
Cut
next
out,
time. Set your watches for the next Watch Pals. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.